This week's feature car is one of the favorites that we've done. This car is so well engineered and thought out, so well executed throughout the build, and is driven and enjoyed regularly. All big pluses in our book. It just proves that you can have a car that gets all sorts of attention, but is a bit unconventional. Add a legendary but hardly ever seen swapped engine out of an iconic Dodge Viper, and you get a real crowd pleaser. The recognition these late 50s Belvederes received nearly 4 decades ago because of the Stephen King horror classic turned feature film Christine still makes them desirable today. Listen in as we hear all about this sleeper Belvedere from its current owner, builder, and caretaker. Now, let's go for a ride.
I first started this car project, or thinking about what car to do next, probably back in about 2005. After doing numerous cars over the last almost 50 years that were completely 100% stock, I wanted to try something different and build a car that I could actually make exactly the way I wanted it and learn some new skills while I was building it, because it isn't a priceless original car. So, and the other thing I wanted was to build a car that I could go to any car show and never see another one exactly like it. And so I wanted something truly unique, and that's hard to think of, something like that. So I was looking at the old big fin Mopars, and number one, they're very rare because they all rusted out so quickly, and no one has really ever done anything with them. You can't buy aftermarket parts for them. And I wanted to do something really different. And then I thought, for this car, I wanted to build something that had at least 500 factory horsepower, pump gas, reliable. And at that time, really the only motor options for that were the Viper engine and the supercharged Mustang engine. And so I thought, well, I've never seen a Viper engine in any of these cars before, so that's what I'm going to do. Viper engine in an old big fin Mopar. And I was going to make everything on it Mopar that I could. I actually found the motor first out of a total Viper out in California, and it was only about 2 years old and only had about 5,000 miles on it. So I got the engine, transmission, clutch, all the unit drivetrain from it. And then I was still looking for the car to put it in. So I found it was actually a one-owner 59 Plymouth out of Florida, and it had really minimal rust on it for one of these cars that old. And so I actually bought that. It was a sedan, all complete, original color paint on it, and purchased that. And then I got that home and was trying to figure out, will this motor fit in it? Will this Viper engine sitting on the garage floor actually fit in this Plymouth? And I had the good fortune of just several miles away from my house, having a fellow who built drag racers and funny cars, Daryl Smith. And so I talked to him and brought the motor over, brought the Plymouth over, and asked him if he could, number one, check it out and see if it looked like it was going to be safe and if it worked, because I didn't want to build something I would kill myself in. He said there should be no problem with the frame and suspension handling that power. So given that, he went to work and fit the motor in and transmission, and the only thing he had to redo was the front cross member on the frame. He had to drop that, and he TIG welded in cross member that he said would be as strong or stronger than the original. And the other motor, where the motor mounts mounted for the motor and also the transmission mount, fit on exactly the stock crossbars on the 59 frame. So somehow over the last 50 years, Mopar hadn't changed those mounting distances. He had to redo the cross piece on the steering linkage. But otherwise, the suspension is completely stock. The motor wouldn't run with its stock wiring harness and without all of the other pieces to it. I had the computer and the stock wiring harness, but it wouldn't run with without everything hooked up. Then I found out that no one reprogrammed the computers to make them run like an aftermarket engine, and no one made wiring harnesses for them at that time, to my knowledge. And I was trying to think, where can I find out who could help me with this, because it's not much stuff on old Mopars and the newer ones, the Vipers. And I thought, well, what about Hennessy Racing? They race these Vipers, and there has to be someone who sets up their computers and makes them non-stock. So I called Hennessy, and they gave me the name of a guy in Chicago who programmed their computers. And then I found out there was a place in Arkansas that made wiring harnesses for the Viper engine that would essentially let you run it like a crate engine. So when I first tried to start it, it wouldn't run at all. And I thought, well, this is crazy. And I checked it had spark. And then it was getting no fuel. And I thought, oh man, what's going on here? So I pulled the fuel injectors, and after sitting for a few years, the fuel injectors had totally frozen up. So I took the fuel injectors and sent them to a company that cleaned them and calibrated them and stuck them back in, and the car just fired right up and really, really ran well. And again, to get to that point, it required getting a new gas tank with a fuel pump in the gas tank, running 2 lines, a return line and a feed line to the carburetor or to the fuel injection system, and a pressure regulator and all this stuff. So all those things had to be fabricated and done just to get the thing running. So then it looked, it seemed good. I liked the way it ran. I drove it a little bit, not much, because I didn't have an exhaust system on it. It was straight headers. And then I thought, well, it looks good enough. I'm going to go the next step on it, which is making it into a nice car that actually works. And so then what I did, I took the entire thing apart again, and I had the entire body and frame media blasted, and the frame powder coated, and then I rebuilt the entire suspension in the front end and put new springs in the back, and I ended up putting Caltrac traction bars on because it would wrap the springs up so violently with the torque. And then I had, after the media blasting of the body, I found there were a lot of factory holes in the firewall I wanted to seal up. I ended up welding a plate over the firewall. I had to find a clutch and a brake pedal system that worked. I ended up putting in the largest Willwood brakes, front and rear, that I could fit in the car. I built a Dana 60 for the rear end, and I had it narrowed to the correct width. 31 spline axles and big bearings and new gears and positraction unit for it, so all new Dana 60. But I had a housing out of an old 60s pickup truck, so it's kind of a vintage looking Dana 60, but all new parts. And then I on the body, it had rust spots, pinholes in the floor pan. I ended up replacing a lot of the floor pan. And this was something I'd always wanted to learn how to weld. And this was my teaching project for myself on welding on this, since it wasn't a priceless original object. I went to community college and took a welding course at the community college for 6 months and learned how to TIG weld and MIG weld. And then I did all my own repair work on it. I replaced the trunk panel, I replaced pieces of the floorboard, and I was able to spend my time and actually cut and butt weld every piece on it so there were no overlapping metal. So the body, I think, was finished around 2009 and painted. And so it's been over 10 years, and there's not a single bubble or rust spot that ever came back. So it did work. But, again, the time, it has to be a labor of love, because you'd never be able to, for a car like this, it'd be crazy if you actually paid someone who would do a good enough job to do it. So, but if you love to do it and you're learning, it was really fun. I've had the most fun on this car than any I've built. So while it was on the rotisserie, I was able to figure out, I got a mock-up box for a vintage air system, and I was able to stick it under the dash area and figure out where it would fit the best, and then weld in the tabs to mount it. So when I came to putting it back together, everything fit like factory. I didn't have to drill new holes and try and figure out how to mount stuff. Everything, all the mounting was all welded, the brackets all welded in place. While I had the frame bare, I was able to rebuild, run all the brake lines, run all the fuel lines, run everything properly, because it would be hidden once I dropped the body on it. And I actually, like, for the brake lines, and it's an alloy that actually lasts much longer than stainless steel in the brake fluid environment, and it basically is supposed to last forever. It's a little softer, it bends easier and flares easier than stainless. So then when I got the body on, a big decision on that was what color to have it painted. And virtually all of them had a cream-colored roof, so I went with that. But with the help of my daughters, we looked at every paint color available, and I wanted to keep it all period Mopar correct. So we went through all the old chips and everything, and we found this Dodge DeSoto color, a 59 Dodge DeSoto color. It's kind of a turquoise, similar to what the old Thunderbirds had in those days, and Chevy even had one back in the 50s. But it was a little different, this Dodge Mopar, so we went with that. So it's a 59, correct period paint, and then it's the original color of the roof. And so that was with the color. And then the interior, I saw a picture of a 59 Dodge that had, I just loved this interior on it. It was kind of a weird snowflake-like pattern on it. And I found this place in Oregon that sells original new old stock material for cars, upholstery material, and I sent him a picture of it and asked him if he had anything like that in stock. And he sent me back a little cloth swatch of it, and it was exactly the right thing. So I ordered enough to have the seats done with that original new old stock 1959 Dodge material. And I was able to find an upholsterer who knew the correct pattern and how to do it, who made the seats look, well, they look like, this is a Plymouth, but they look like 59 Dodge seats, which look a heck of a lot nicer, in my opinion, than the Plymouth seats did. So the interior then, we put a new headliner in it, and the glass was all good except the windshield that started to delaminate, and I was able to find a place that you could buy a new windshield with the correct tint. Essentially a one-owner car, and I had the original order sheet from the dealer and all the the facts on it, and the only one of the few options the car had was tinted glass, and it's kind of a weird tint on these old Mopars, but a company reproduces the windshields with the correct tint, and so I put a new windshield in. I had the front and rear bumpers re-chromed and a few little pieces re-chromed, but all the trim on it, it's all stainless steel. And it had every piece of trim on the car, and that was one thing when I was looking for one. I really knew I had to get one complete, because it's almost impossible to find these pieces if you need individual trim pieces. So yeah, it's all original trim. I had it rebuffed, and the guys who re-chromed the bumpers also take the little dents out of the stainless and buff them. They did just a fantastic job. So that's all, yeah, all original stuff. The grill is anodized aluminum, and so there's not much you can do with it, but it was in excellent shape, so that it's all original, the lights and everything. I did mount a radio in the trunk that I can run remote control, and it has 2 speakers on the back deck in the original factory spot. Well, I should mention the gauges. I had to put new gauges in to run with the Viper engine. To calibrate the speedometer, I had to put magnets on the drive shaft with a pickup that measures the impulses off the drive shaft, and then you just drive it for a mile and hit the button and it calibrates itself. At car shows, if they don't hear it run, they walk by it and they assume it's probably has a stock engine and stuff in. But if I have the hood up and they see a Viper engine, people stop and do a double take because no one has ever seen a Viper in one of these old cars before, and it's a very impressive sight when you see it. And the other thing I like about this car is you can't find a piece on this car that doesn't have at least a 15-minute story about why it's there and why it works like it does. So that's the other fun thing when you build these things. Every nut and bolt, you think through and think, will it be reliable? Will it work properly? Will it be safe? I first started this thing in about 2006, and it looks like it was done painted around 2013, and so it's probably been 8 or 9 years since since it's been pretty much finished, except for little minor tweaks here and there.
This car epitomizes American cars during the mid-50s to early 60s, particularly the Chrysler products of this legendary designer Virgil Exner. It retains its classic good looks, yet it's modernized under the skin with safety and comfort in mind. Which Exner-era car is your favorite and why?